Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a pretty radical utopian blueprint for the future of humanity. Specifically, we're going to impartially unpack the teachings and writings of the guide Xu Feng, the founder of a movement known as Lifechanyuan. His text, Opening the Era of Lifechanyuan, is essentially this massive manifesto proposing a total, fundamental restructuring of human society, religion, and governance, the whole shebang. It's a fascinating read, so let's just get right into it, shall we?
We're kicking things off with this incredibly sweeping poetic ambition straight from Xu Feng's writings. The ultimate goal here? To ignite a beacon of hope and build a spiritual and soulful continent, right in the middle of our modern ocean of material prosperity. He envisions creating this oasis to safely guide loved ones into a 1,000-year world filled with beauty and joy. It is really all about rescuing humanity from a deep abyss of suffering and pivoting toward profound spiritual peace.
To make sense of all these grand propositions, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. The grand vision: humanity's dark night, radical societal shifts, the spiritual harvest, and finally, a brand new future.
All right, starting with Section 1, the Grand Vision.
Now, you might be wondering who exactly is building this new world. Well, Xu Feng uses this highly specific, fascinating term, celestials. These aren't just your average passive believers. They are active pioneers. They're virtuous individuals, dedicating themselves entirely to building Lifechanyuan, basically acting as a much-needed oasis in a desolate desert to help everyone transcend all this worldly suffering.
And you know, every major movement has its early champions, right? Xu Feng actually explicitly acknowledges these 8 early pioneers in a letter of encouragement. He points out that this grand structure only emerged after they endured countless hardships, specifically crediting people like Xianhe Celestio, Shaxi, Tamasqua, and Tunja Yu. And he credits Lingji Celestial, Lin Yu, Satong, and Lutu with really laying down the foundation. So this whole grand vision is anchored in the very real dedication of its first followers.
Moving right along to Section 2, Humanity's Dark Night.
So, according to Xu Feng, humanity has been stuck in this really poignant tragedy for a staggering 5,000 years. Just think about that. For 5 millennia, the text argues, we've been struggling under this harsh law of the jungle. It's a system driven completely by conflict, competition, and endless strife, which has ultimately left us all totally spiritually impoverished.
And get this is where the diagnosis takes a surprisingly modern turn. Lifechanyuan actually identifies the internet as the ultimate modern catalyst. They aren't anti-technology at all. They believe the internet allows insightful, virtuous people to completely bypass traditional gatekeepers of wealth and power. It literally lets us transcend time and space to connect directly in spirit and soul, which they argue can pull us out of this darkness incredibly quickly.
Okay, Section 3, Radical Societal Shifts.
So how do they propose we fix this? Well, the text argues that ideological divisions are a massive root cause of suffering, so it proposes completely unifying all world religions, but not by throwing them out. Instead, it's about expanding and elevating the wisdom found in foundational texts like the Bible, the Quran, Buddhist scriptures, and the Tao Te Ching. It's like extracting the universal truths from all of these separate traditions.
And out of that integration comes this wild, kind of paradoxical concept, a non-religious religion. Sounds like an oxymoron, right? But the movement mandates creating this single, unified ideology to replace our fractured, combative global faiths. It's designed to take the strengths of all major faiths and innovatively align them with actual human nature, stripping away the divisive dogma to focus purely on soulful elevation.
Now, here is a real game changer. The text explicitly demands that all political parties across the world must completely dissolve, no exceptions. Xu Feng argues that political parties are another fundamental root cause of our suffering, and as long as partisan politics exist, we're just perpetuating that 5,000-year-old law of the jungle through endless competition.
So naturally, if we scrap politics, who's in charge? They propose this 3-step governance model. First, society would be guided by the principles of historical saints, specifically naming Jesus, Sakyamuni, Muhammad, and Lao Tzu. Second, actual day-to-day governance would be handled strictly by virtuous individuals, not politicians. And third, a total unification of the secular government with Lifechanyuan itself. It's all about spiritual wisdom entirely replacing partisan interests.
Which brings us to Section 4, the Spiritual Harvest.
This highlights a huge point Xu Feng makes about us as individuals.
The core argument is that society has dangerously neglected the soul in favor of purely material abundance. Sure, material wealth enriches our physical lives, but it absolutely cannot fulfill us spiritually. The text insists that only by perfecting the spirit and soul can we actually elevate the quality of life, which is capitalized in the text, by the way, and allow humanity to transition to higher-level spaces.
And who actually gets to be part of this transition? Literally everyone. The text emphasizes absolute, radical inclusivity during this programmed earth purification process. The gates of Lifechanyuan are explicitly open to every geography, all major religions, rich, poor, national leaders, ordinary citizens, you name it. Everyone is welcome to make the shift.
But it is 100% voluntary. Xu uses this brilliant agricultural metaphor stating, "Those who wish to enter will not be turned away, and those who wish to leave will not be stopped." They are solely focused on harvesting the ripe crops, meaning they only want to gather people whose spirits and souls are actually ready and willing for this shift. There's absolutely no force involved, just a gathering of the prepared.
Now, to keep things stable and orderly during this massive harvest, there's a very strict reordering of personal priorities. The absolute most fundamental relationship is with the greatest creator. Second in line is the relationship with one's parents, and third, your fellow celestials. Xu insists this must become the absolute closest of all human relationships outside of the creator and parents.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, a brand new future.
In this brand new, rational era, the Celestials are given a very specific mandate. They are urged to stop dwelling on the past and to ditch mere intellectual cleverness. Instead, they need to rely on absolute sincerity and the power of the soul to act as nurses of the greatest creator. They are meant to be the sturdy pillars holding up a completely stable, harmonious, and unified global society.
The teachings of Xu offer such a fascinating, radical departure from our modern norms. So, as the internet connects global minds more than ever, we have to ask, will humanity actually embrace this radical pivot from material wealth to spiritual unification? Are we truly moving toward dissolving borders, religions, and political parties like this blueprint envisions? Or, despite our connections, are we just further entrenching the law of the jungle? It is a massive question to ponder about the ultimate direction of human progress. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.